Joe and Erica, National Guard troops from Texas are already on their way here right now, and we've learned they could be deployed as soon as tomorrow. It's something Governor J.B. Pritzker says he's already fought and will.
If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed and that this could end in a deadly situation. And it's reasonable for them to use force based on those conditions. CPD will not arrest and cannot arrest federal agents because someone deems what they're doing is illegal or unlawful.
And we're back, y'all. Thank you for watching today. Go ahead and hit that like button, my people. You know that it helps us out a ton. And of course, it helps you because it helps us keep bringing you these stories every day. Now, y'all, you're seeing on your screen, you're seeing look at the ravenous rage from the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago, your boy, Brandon Johnson. So, y'all, there's a lot happening in Chicago. Chicago right now is ground zero for the immigration struggle of America. Immigration struggle of America. This illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor has a welcoming city ordinance where he says our police cannot work with ICE for immigration related enforcement type of activities. They just can't do it. And that is causing his city to be the target of the federal government because they're saying, hey, if y'all won't work with us and we have these things that we need to do, then we're just going to come in there and do it ourselves. Since y'all don't want to help, we'll just send in the whole cavalry into your city and we'll do it ourselves. Now, this illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor, your boy, Brandon Johnson, and the governor of the state, Pritzker, they are both they're apoplectically upset about all of this. But at the same time, the law enforcement officials of the city of Chicago, I don't think this guy, this illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor, I don't think he has the faith and confidence of his own law enforcement. I've done a number of videos saying that the Chicago police turned their back on Brandon Johnson. And this is yet another of a long string of those. He has been disinvited and even prohibited from coming to police officers' funerals on multiple occasions. We've done video on this because he doesn't have the faith and trust of the police. And now the police superintendent yet again is coming out to correct the record made by this illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor. So we're going to be taking a look at the police superintendent saying, look, man, we can't arrest ICE agents. Are you stupid? Okay, he didn't use those words, but that's my word, right? And he's also going to be saying, look, we need to protect law and order. He's setting the record straight about some of the things that happen when people attack law enforcement. He's like, yo, they might shoot you. Okay, don't do it. All right. Like, you know, the type of things that people with average common sense would already know. So y'all, let's go ahead and hop into the remarks that the police superintendent made yesterday, setting your boy and his version of events and his rhetoric, setting all of that straight. Let's take a look. But before we do, y'all, make sure you take care of your money. I'm not going to make this a long one, y'all. Go to Paralegold, PARALEGOLD.com or call 844-651-8334, 844-651-8334. If you have $50,000 to $100,000 or more in your retirement, protected from inflation, protected from monetary debasement, you're about to retire. Make sure your money's still there and it's still worth something by investing at least some of it in gold. Talk to our partners at Augusta Precious Metals. Go click the link now, get the free information, and protect your precious retirement.
City leaders reacting today to a weekend of ICE activity in Chicago, some of it turning violent and outlining plans for what happens next. Our Sarah Maki is. City leaders reacting today to a weekend of ICE activity in Chicago, some of it turning violent and outlining plans for what happens next. Our Sarah Maki is at Chicago Police Headquarters this afternoon, where an impassioned response from Superintendent Larry Snelling really took center stage. And the superintendent, Sarah, taking issue with some people questioning his staff.
Yeah, that's right. He was really trying to create a timeline of events on Saturday, things that happened from 10:30 in the morning until 4 p.m. Events that included a woman being shot by federal agents, multiple rounds of tear gas deployed by federal agents, and also criticism and allegations that Chicago Police Command issued a stand down to their officers, preventing them from helping those federal agents when boxed in by protesters. Police Superintendent Larry Snelling says 27 Chicago police officers were caught in the tear gas deployed by federal agents Saturday afternoon, a moment addressed by Mayor Brandon Johnson this way.
CPD responded to attempt to de-escalate the situation and ICE tear gassed our police officers.
But Snelling providing more context and a timeline for events Saturday, which started, he said, with a call for police at 10:32 a.m. about a shooting at 39th and Kedzie. Snelling said officers made contact with a woman who reported she was shot by federal agents, holding down the scene in which federal authorities say their car was smashed by the suspects before the shots were fired.
If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed and that this could end in a deadly situation.
Tensions would flare again in that same area hours later. 12:28, Snelling says. Federal agents called for an assist, leading to this highly scrutinized exchange from dispatch audio.
If you guys can start heading there as quick as you can, and then just hold tight for instructions.
So the chief of patrol, clear everybody up. We're not responding over there. We're going to clear out as soon as we can, Spud. We're like locked in over here, so we're going to do the best we can to get out of here as soon as we can.
Snelling said they are still looking into the circumstances around that exchange, but adding they sent more officers at 1:09 and directing everyone to act in the moment.
And this is something that we're going to be talking to our officers about. This is something we're going to be talking to our leadership so that that message trickles down. If there are exigent circumstances, work now and then talk about your response later.
Snelling issued his full support for that chief of patrol, who is now under intense scrutiny because of that dispatch audio. He also mentioned inside that he is unsure how he would enforce a new executive order from Mayor Brandon Johnson, one that would create ICE-free zones on city property and also for private businesses who do not want to participate or allow access to ICE agents. From CPD headquarters, Sarah Maki, CBS News, Chicago.
Now, we will come back and hear more that the police superintendent Snelling had to say. We're going to hear more from him in a few, y'all, because what he said really is important. But for now, we're going to take a look at the fact that though they tried to stop it, though the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago and the governor of the state both tried to stop it, they haven't been able to stop it. The National Guard is going into Chicago. A federal judge has ruled that, at least for now, the National Guard can go into Chicago. Let's take a look.
Joe and Erica, National Guard troops from Texas are already on their way here right now, and we've learned they could be deployed as soon as tomorrow. It's something Governor J.B. Pritzker says he's already fought and will continue to fight moving forward. You're looking at the lawsuit filed Monday suing the Trump administration over plans to deploy the National Guard here. Reading in part, quote, plaintiffs ask this court to halt the illegal, dangerous, and unconstitutional federalization of members of the National Guard of the United States, including both the Illinois and Texas National Guard. A federal memo confirmed by Governor J.B. Pritzker revealing up to 300 members of the Illinois National Guard would be federalized and deployed to protect federal property and government personnel performing federal functions. But National Guard troops from Texas are already on their way here and could be deployed as soon as Tuesday or Wednesday. The Illinois National Guard was ordered to report tomorrow for training, according to state attorneys. The judge in the hearing today did not issue a restraining order like we saw in Portland, instead setting another hearing for arguments this Thursday.
Good afternoon.
Governor J.B. Pritzker and elected state and local representatives speaking out about the lawsuit. He didn't mince words when speaking about those troops on their way from Texas.
They should stay the hell out of Illinois. I've been very clear about that. We do not need troops from some other place being sent into the state of Illinois, or any troops, to be honest with you.
Deployment of the military to Illinois is unlawful and unconstitutional, no matter where these forces come from.
Again, a federal judge will revisit this lawsuit this coming Thursday, but with those Texas troops on the way and possibly up for deployment tomorrow, we could see that happen before this goes back to court. Reporting live in the West Loop, I'm Tara Molina, CBS News Chicago Investigators.
Now, just yesterday, this illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor, he did something that someone with a sub 10% approval rating would do. He tried to designate ICE no-go zones in the city of Chicago. Now, I made a video about that. It's the last one with this guy's face on it, the previous one. You can check that out. He basically said there's certain places in this city that ICE you can't go. Just think about that. The federal government can't go somewhere within the United States. He said, look, this is Chicagoan property. You can't come here. Let's see what Stephen Miller has to say as a reply to that.
Today, Brendan Johnson signed an executive order prohibiting use of city property for federal immigration operations.
By the way, that's a great example. On the Brandon Johnson, it's an example of how I was asked the question of, well, do you have any example that this behavior hasn't been condemned by Democrat officials? Well, I can go one better. The mayor of Chicago not only has failed to condemn the violent obstructive acts against ICE and law enforcement, but in the aftermath of 2 coordinated attempted murders of ICE officers through vehicle ramming attacks, he issued a no-go zone for ICE officers. What do we think would happen if, say, under a Democrat administration, Republican officials declared no-go zones for the FBI? What do you think the reaction to that would be? How many people do you think would be arrested and placed into jail over that? And so it's just important to understand these are not isolated incidents. If you can't see, then you don't want to see. In other words, if you can't see that since we've taken office, there has been a organized, systematized campaign to delegitimize, dehumanize, threaten, impede, obstruct, and physically assault ICE officers in their conduct of their duties, then I can't persuade you of it because you're choosing not to see what's right in front of your face.
So much of this, y'all, is all a result of the Welcoming City Ordinances and the Trust Act, okay? Here you're going to these are the laws that basically tell Chicago police not to work with the federal government to enforce immigration laws. I mean, just I can't imagine how, we need the trust of the community. Okay, so in order to get the trust of the community, the way you get the community's trust is by telling the community we're not going to help enforce the law. I mean, think about that, y'all. Here you're going to hear Superintendent Snelling talking about that and the difficulties that presents for him and his officers.
Let me first talk about the Trust Act. The Trust Act prohibits law enforcement in the state of Illinois from engaging in assisting federal agents when it comes to immigration enforcement. We abide by that law. The city ordinance, the Welcoming City Ordinance, goes a little further. It even prohibits us from asking someone their status. We abide by that ordinance because in law enforcement, we don't make the laws, we uphold them. But let me explain how important it is to understand how difficult it is for our officers at times. Because when we look at the Trust Act and the Welcoming City Ordinance, sometimes there's a struggle when you're walking that line to make sure that you're not violating either one of those things, and at the same time enforcing the law the way that we're supposed to. One thing about law enforcement, I'll tell you this right now, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But we accept that. So I'm not going to stand here and make excuses or pretend like the job is not a struggle, so we're going to make excuses about it. No, we're not going to do that. Again, these men and women go out there every single day, and these are the things that they fight through. And my leadership team wants to make sure that our officers don't get caught up in something where they end up in an investigation, fairly or unfairly, and they want to make sure that these officers are safe and that they can keep everyone else safe. So although we do not engage in immigration enforcement, we are going to enforce the law when the laws are violated.
And as I alluded to earlier, Snelling, just basically going to tell people what common sense. If you attack police officers, including ramming them with your cars, boxing them in with your cars, following them around, you might be putting yourself in a position where they're going to use deadly force against you. So don't do that.
Let me make this clear. Federal agents, ICE, HSI, are officers. They are agents of law enforcement. If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed and that this could end in a deadly situation. And it's reasonable for them to use force based on those conditions. Do not box in any law enforcement officer. You are breaking the law when you do that. And you are putting yourself in danger.
And finally, to put the icing on the cake, Snelling says, look, we're Chicago police. We do not arrest federal agents. Like, are you, again, do we have to tell you this? We don't arrest federal agents.
Our responsibilities when it comes to federal agents, and I've been asked these questions, we do not interfere with the duties and responsibilities of federal agents. We don't have to agree with it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to agree with it. We do not interfere with their orders. And when they go out to carry out their orders, they will do that the way that they're trained to do it and their understanding of what it is they have to do. Another one. CPD will not arrest and cannot arrest federal agents because someone deems what they're doing is illegal or unlawful. Their rules of engagement are different from CPD and other local law enforcement agents. We need to be clear about this. If we're not clear about this, we will see another event like we saw Saturday.
So y'all, again, Chicago ground zero for the immigration fight. I would say as of now, federal government 1, Chicago 0. You know, if we're keeping score, they're losing the first round of all of this. If not the second round, it'll be federal government 2, Chicago 0. Not the people of Chicago, the Chicago administration, the illustrious sub 10% approval rating administration of Brandon Johnson. So y'all, let me know what you think. The National Guard is going into Chicago. Federal judge has allowed it. It's happening. They could just say, look, as I've said many times before, look, if you back off, we will cooperate with you more forcefully as it relates to people that we detain who have criminal records. Like they could diffuse this whole thing just by saying that. Listen, if you back off, we will be super cooperative when we come across somebody who's in the country without permission and they have a criminal record or they're suspected or they're on trial for a crime or whatever. We will cooperate with you happily. I think that would be enough. That would give Trump enough to back off. The community should be happy about that, right? Because don't you want those people out of the community? So I think that's the solution. But y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. And one of our listeners sent me a poll, y'all. So I'm going to be placing a poll question today. This person says, can you please pass along this poll question to your YouTube channel when a video is posted regarding Brandon Johnson? Should real Chicagoans start a petition to recall Mayor Brandon Johnson? So I'm going to put that as a poll question today. And I'm also going to put that as a question down in the comments, y'all. So please do comment. Before you do, please stop, hit the share button, share this video out over email, text message, WhatsApp, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all of your favorite social mediums. And of course, if you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. For my people with retirement, go down, hit the first link in the description. Paralegold, PARALEGOLD.com. Protect your retirement from the upsies, the downsies, the roundsies, and the roundsies. And you can speak to our partners at Augusta Precious Metals at 844-651-8334. Thank y'all for watching. Love y'all, and we'll see you in the next one.
So I just want to be clear about a few things. The events that occurred on Saturday when there was a shooting involving ICE agents. So I'm going to start with a timeline. It started out with our two deputy chiefs who responded to the scene. That would be Deputy Chief Brian Kinane and Deputy Chief Gabriella Shemash. They did an excellent job over there. The narrative is out there that CPD was not on scene. CPD did not show up. Let me just put all of that to rest. At 10:32 a.m., CPD receives a call of a person shot at 39th and Kedzie. By 10:36 a.m., CPD responds. They located a woman who flagged them down. She had been shot. She stated that she had been shot by federal agents. CFD was called. She was taken to the hospital to have her gunshot wounds treated. At 11:06, CPD officers are at the hospital with this individual who had been shot. At 11:25 a.m., CPD units are holding down the scene where the offending vehicle was located. And when I say the offending vehicle, we're talking about the vehicle that smashed into the Border Patrol vehicle. At 11:36 a.m., the scene is then turned over to federal authorities for their investigation after CPD was clear that there was a shooting that involved this particular person who was at the hospital. At 12:12 p.m., in a separate incident, and I believe people have been conflating these two things, in a separate incident from the shooting, there was a vehicle that rammed the federal agents off the road, ran them off the road at 3200 West 35th Street. They crashed as a result of it. That offending vehicle also struck another vehicle in that location, another federal vehicle in that location, and then fled the scene. Our officers arrived on the scene to do the reports and document everything that happened. We have no documented injuries from that incident. At 12:28 p.m., federal agents called for CPD to assist due to a large crowd gathering at 39th and Kedzie. At 1:09 p.m., additional CPD units are en route to 39th and Kedzie. At 1:15, at 39th and Kedzie, where CPD is on scene, a group of protesters began moving barricades and federal agents deployed tear gas. At 2:56 p.m., objects are being thrown at CPD by members of the public. Federal agents again deployed gas to leave the area. So let me just kind of break down what happened there, because at 3:48, everything was all clear. When our officers arrived on scene, they met with the federal agents who were out there. The federal agents had deployed chemical agents. They deployed chemical agents while our officers were there. Those who will tell you that our officers weren't there, say that to the 27 officers who were affected by the chemical agents that were deployed by federal agents.